Welcome to Beyond Table Talk, a space for real people and real conversations that move us from awareness to action. Each episode dives deep into the issues that impact our daily lives, financially, emotionally, and socially, with real talk from real people. We're so glad you've joined us, and we've got a powerful conversation ahead. Whether you're tuning in live or catching the replay, thank you for being a part of this community. Now let's get into it. Meet our moderator.
Hello, and welcome to Beyond Table Talk, a signature conversation series powered by the Association for Black Economic Power. I'm Sharon Taylor, your moderator for tonight's conversation on At the Intersection of Health and Wealth, which one is more valuable? As we move into the fall season, it's a good time to pause and reflect. We all know that importance of money in building a stable future, but what about health? Tonight, we'll explore how these two forces are connected, why they matter equally, and what it looks like when one is prioritized over the other. Health and wealth are often viewed separately, one measured by medical charts, the other by assets such as bank accounts, insurance policies, and real estate holdings. But in reality, they're deeply intertwined. Our goal tonight is to push past the idea that health and wealth are separate. How do we nurture both? And what does it look like when the two paths meet rather than compete? We shouldn't have to choose one over the other. I am so excited to welcome our guest here tonight. But before we do that, I want to remind you about our QR code. Please scan the QR code on your screen to complete our brief survey before we dive into tonight's discussion. Your feedback helps us shape our future conversations, and we appreciate you taking the time to do that. It will be shown again at the end, so you will have an opportunity, but take a moment to do that. Thank you. Tonight, our panelists that are experienced professionals that's joined us tonight bring unique insights to this discussion. Tonight, I want to welcome Dr. Juno Robbins. Please introduce yourself and tell us about your work and how it connects to tonight's topic.
Hey, Sharon, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and a privilege to be here, along with Dr. Thompson and Dr. Robinson Foot. Juno Robbins, I'm a chiropractor by trade for 29 years, originally from Toronto, Canada, and practices in North Minneapolis and in Bloomington, Minnesota. Chiropractic is holistic healthcare, so no drugs, no surgery, believe in the body's ability to heal. We just kind of help it along its way. So natural preventative wellness and healthcare has been a passion of mine since high school. In addition to my chiropractic practice, I'm the current board chair for the Association of Black Economic Power. Always had an interest in self-empowerment through means of self-responsibility, and that wealth piece is right in there with what I enjoy doing. Again, happy to be here. Thanks for having me and looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you. We're also joined tonight with Dr. James Thompson, MD. Can you please tell us about your background and how it relates to tonight's discussion?
Yes, thank you for the invitation to this forum. I retired about a year ago. I was in practice of allergy and immunology in the Chicago and greater Chicago area up until last year. And I mostly saw patients for 3 decades that had asthma and allergic sinus problems. About 8 years ago, though, I decided to get certification in integrative nutrition after experiencing a revelation during a Daniel fast with my local church in Chicago. And since that time, it's been a transformation. I've actually completed writing a book earlier this year called Fearless Wellness, and it was based on 8 pillars of health. I'm also medical director for Healthy Living with a Vision Foundation, also located in the greater Chicago area, but we have many of our events online, which allows it to be more of a national impact. And that's about it. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll dive deeper into more of the your specialty around, especially this time of season, with allergies and immunizations are always a topic. But I want to welcome Dr. Tracy Robinson Foote. Please tell us and welcome. Tell us more about you and why you're here tonight.
Thank you. It is indeed a pleasure to be here. I love this topic because it hits on so many different levels. I would say currently I am a school counselor in elementary school. Prior to that, I taught elementary school for 30 years, and I am a therapist in the evening in private practice. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thanks. That was quick. And I'm going to draw some more out of you later. So don't be surprised when I ask you some more questions about being a school counselor and therapist and having a private practice about that. But thank you so much. And I'm so glad to have you here tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Welcome. If it's okay with everyone, I'm going to jump right into this discussion. So when people say health is wealth, what does that mean? And in really practical terms, what would you say? And because we have a wide range of specialty here, I'm going to start with Dr. Juno Robbins. Is that okay? When we talk
Absolutely,
about
absolutely, absolutely. When we talk about health as wealth, health is really, it's a wealth that money can't buy. And there's different forms of wealth. One of my favorite sayings is an old Sanskrit proverb, I believe, or Islamic. It says, health is a crown on a well man's head that only the ill can see. Health is a crown on a well man's head that only the ill can see. And what that basically means is our health is very easy to take for granted when it's there. But when we don't have that health, when disease or illness is present, then we truly appreciate that health. We no longer take it for granted. So when we talk about health as wealth, if you don't have your health, then you can't do a whole lot of other things.
Yeah, for sure. Dr. Robinson Foote, how would you interpret that? Or what would you say about health as well from your lens and expertise?
Yes, first of all, I would say I certainly agree with what was just said. 110%. Your health is your wealth. And so I realized just working in different areas of the academic world in the mental health field that I've noticed that there's different values that people place on health and wealth. And so, and as Dr. Robbins just stated, you don't know that your health has been compromised until it's been compromised. You don't know that your health is, we take it for granted of our health, just everyday living, we take that for granted. Some of us do. And I think once we really become self-aware of our health and the difference in wealth, and that is actually, if it's integrated, it's a very rich experience. But getting to that point and getting the self-awareness around health and wealth. What is your health? What is your health worth? Mm-hmm. And so I think that is the foundation. Our wealth is our health is our well-being. It's our foundation of who we are. So I just would like to say, without health, we can't enjoy the wealth. And I agree, totally agree.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Thompson, is something you would add to that?
So I think it's been stated very well. Mm-hmm. I think you can't separate the two. And if I were to say, as the premise is for this event, which is better, of course, I'd rather have my health first, but wealth counts. Because,
which one is more valuable?
Okay. Which one is more valuable? I would say even my health is more valuable. So, because as mentioned already, without your health, you cannot create wealth. In fact, it generally drains your wealth. But I agree also that it's not a simple definition, that it depends on kind of where you are looking for different definitions. But I like the holistic definition that wealth is not only your assets in terms of dollars, but it also involves your relationships. It also involves your fitness. I'm talking about wealth. and it also involves freedoms. So people that are, say, the wealthier or wealthiest people tend to have those fully addressed. And so I think as we build on our health and we're able to increase our wealth, I think those definitions start to come to the forefront.
So you bring up something that makes me think of how does financial stress like commonly show up as we talk about health issues, especially in clients and patients or in communities that we serve? What would you say to that? Like, how does financial stress show up? I'm gonna pick, jump in with Dr. Robinson Foot, just only because I know it can show up differently with like elementary or in school, right? So
Oh, yes. So
tell us.
being that I work with the parents, staff, students, community, so many different layers of how this shows up. And I would say the anxiety that people come. I say people because it's everyone who is experiencing this stressor. They have the anxiety, the high blood pressure. I see parents come in and say, "I got to get my meds," or they're coming, they explode. They have so much on their minds. They're adopting students. They are mentoring. They're legal guardians. They're in and out of incarceration. So they have all of these. I want to say these dynamics that they're involved in. So anxiety, insomnia, depression, alcoholism, because those are the behaviors that sometimes can, follow the lack of, the financial stress. And so I will say students come with so much trauma daily, and it's just almost sad. You want to reach every child you come in contact with, but again, there's that health over wealth. So taking care of yourself as a staff person, taking care of yourself as a counselor, all that comes into play. You can't overextend yourself because now you're stressed. And if you're not there, and I'll say, for speaking in first person terms, if I'm not healthy, if I'm not available to myself, I can't be available to anyone else. So I won't be good for anyone else if I don't keep my health first. And so just having the different layers of stressors and trying to sift through what is going on, having the self-awareness, giving the information, informing parents, this is okay. Take care of yourself. You don't have to come up here today. We can work it out. We can even do a Zoom, but we need to hear from you. And so I think, wow, the financial stress, it shows up in so many ways. That's just creating more and more health issues as we speak. So,
Right. You touched on a couple of things. When traveling on airplanes, they drop that air mask, oxygen mask, and
yes,
they say, put yours on first.
yes,
You can't help someone else if you aren't breathing.
absolutely.
So that analogy that goes there, that's what I hear you saying. Do this for, you have to check your own wellness in order to make sure that you're whole. Dr. Juno Robinson, you are smiling. It feels like you want to chime in and say something on this.
Well, I think Dr. Robinson Foot hit it on the foot. Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
You probably hear that a lot, right? No.
Actually, I don't, but that's good.
No, but with the chronic anxiety, the poor sleep, weakened immunity, these are all symptoms of chronic stress, financial stress. In my practice, I see a lot of musculoskeletal type stuff, a lot of headaches, for example. We all carry our muscular tension at different places in our body. If you're chronically stressed due to finances, it's going to hit that spot. It could be that suboccipital spot. These nerves that start here come around the head. Person has chronic type headaches. And as you both said, I liked your example of the air mask that drop down. So I have patients that are head of household. Mom comes in, mom's having a tough time. Mom is stressed. Mom has the headaches. Mom's not feeling well. Mom is irritable. She takes that home to her family. I used to have a group of, they were probably mid-50s, worked downtown Minneapolis, and they lived out in Brooklyn Park, so about a 15, 20-minute drive. And Friday after work, they would stop in the clinic to just get on the therapy beds, whether it's the hydro massage table, whether it's the hot packs, the mechanical massagers. Didn't have a particular ailment, but they needed that 20, 30 minutes of me time before they went home to the kids, before they went home to the family, so they could be right for the family.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah, so when you talk about financial stress, that manifests in physiological stress, which manifests in all those other things. So definitely need to address it at the root cause. That's my take.
Well, geez, I'm writing that down, and I will be making an appointment because that makes a lot of sense to me. Just to decompress it all, and taking just 20 minutes sounds feasible. Dr. Thompson, do you have something you want to add to that? This
Well,
question about financial stress.
yes, I like what's already been said, and I agree fully.
Mhm.
When I speak with patients and family about it, I mentioned to them that these different stressors do lead to a physiological, a physical response through hormone shifts, and cortisol is the one that's most talked about. And we need to have a response to stress to survive, but that's for acute stress. All of a sudden, if you're being, chased by a dog or something, but the chronic stress that goes with financial matters, or with sometimes people looking at the news too much and with what's going on politically, can take its toll physically and end up um, causing stress hormones to be elevated, and therefore having problems with your heart and having problems with, as mentioned, your immune system. And so there needs to be answers to dealing with stress.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, we want to touch on some of those, and I love the ideas that you've thrown out to our community, our public, our viewing listeners right now. So we'll make sure we get to some more of those. I want to ask a question about, like, what are some of the things that some overlooked, like, healthy habits that may not cost very much, and but they can create like a long-term value. What are some things that you would suggest to our public and our listening audience? Some healthy habits, maybe low cost. We definitely need that in this economy these days. I'm going to kick it back to you, Dr. Thompson. What would you
Sure.
say?
I would start with the ABCs we learned in CPR, the airway, breathing, circulation. So something we always have at our disposal is deep breathing. And there are different constructs. There's something called box breathing. There's 4-7-8. They're pretty easy. You can find on the internet. I prefer the 4-7-8, where you breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds and then hold your breath for 7 seconds, and then breathe out slowly through pursed lips for 8 seconds. That's biofeedback. It actually can slow your heart rate and calm things down. You can do that anytime you want, and it can have a healthy impact. The other thing, so that's airway and breathing, and then circulation, exercise. You don't need you don't need a fancy gym. All you need is taking some steps. Lace up your gym shoes and walk, even if it's just in your home. Movement counts. Your legs next to your heart, your greatest pumps are your legs. And so you get that circulation going, and it helps your heart, it helps your brain. And those are things that shouldn't be hard to do. You don't want to just jump out there if you haven't been exercising and just try to run a marathon. Of course, you want to take it slow, but starting with 5 minutes a day and building every 2 or 3 weeks, if you haven't been exercising, can pay off in great dividends.
Okay, sounds like it. Breathing, and then 4-7-8, right? Okay,
That's one. That's one
that's
construct.
one
Yeah.
one method, and then some. I've been trying to learn that Tamia dance still to get. That's giving me a fit, but something that gives you a few minutes,
Yeah.
just some exercise. Okay, what would you add to that, Dr. Robinson Foot?
I would add water.
Oh,
Water, 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 water.
water.
And it sounds so simple, but oh, it's so hard. Hard meaning there's days when you're not thirsty. There's days when you're too busy to drink water. There's days when you just are hungrier than you are thirsty. And so, we've all, to any degree, we've all crossed that bridge where it's like, oh, got to get my water in as
Mm-hmm.
adults.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that it's still a struggle. I can drink so much water on Monday, be perfectly fine with water.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually know my limits with water. The next day, do absolutely horrible. But what I say to myself is that self-talk. Tomorrow's a new day. I start over. I get my water. You start drinking it in the morning, pace yourself. And before you know it, that evening, you would have drank more than you did the previous day. So I think it's just about pacing ourselves. And so I love the 478 biofeedback. I love that.
Yeah.
But I would say definitely drinking water. And I also want to add, so you say you don't need fancy gyms. You're absolutely right, Dr. Thompson. And so when I learned, and this was probably in my teens, I learned I can just go around the block. We all have blocks or we have a neighborhood. So whether we want to walk in our current neighborhood, that's a personal choice. But if you can walk in your current neighborhood 2 times around the block, that's wonderful. And of course, inside the house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's a question that I'm receiving from one of our viewers,
Okay.
and it's related to experiencing financial stress. The question says, if you're experiencing financial stress, how can you recognize that it may be having a physical impact that needs to be addressed? And what would you recommend to that?
Mm,
Dr. Chuno?
mm. That's a
Robin?
that's a real question. That's a
Mm-hmm.
real life scenario there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing I would say is awareness. That's the word that comes to mind. If you can be aware that, hey, something's not quite right. This is not how I usually feel. What is causing this? Um, Next thing I would say is perspective. Is it the difference? We always hear that difference of being poor versus being broke, right? We've all gone through those periods where, man, it's just rough right now. But the mentality of poorness, the mentality of it's not always going to be this way, the mentality of I can pick myself up out of this, and then put it in perspective. Has somebody died? Is it a crisis situation? Um, those are the kind of things that I would say. Never to minimize it, but put it in perspective, be aware. And, if we can act, if you can look up, you can get up. So
Mm.
Okay.
I don't know if I don't have the
Yeah.
clinical psychology that Dr. Robinson Foote has, but that's my quick take on it.
Uh-oh. If he wants to challenge you, are you putting a challenge out today? Pushing
That's
the question over there. That's a
Just
great answer.
passing.
I
It's
love
just
that
passing the
awareness
baton.
first, being self-aware about that too, and then there are some physical things that starts to happen too around financial stress, right?
Mm.
One to the body of lack of sleep is one. I know when I'm stressed around finances, I can't rest. I'm up making spreadsheets and figuring out additional income sources. But so there are other things. But Dr. Robinson Foote, I think you're right, Dr. Juno. Let's pull her into this conversation. What would you add to that?
I would probably add, I love the self awareness because if you have
Mhm.
self awareness, you're paying attention to your body. I'm acting different, or it's doing something different, or my heart is beating a little faster, or I'm up at 2 a.m. for the last 2 or 3 nights. If your pattern is different, it's something to pay attention to. And we don't all have the ability to just run to the doctor and get a checkup. So we get that. But I think having someone to talk to about the difference our body is, or well, I'll say the different behaviors our body is now taking upon, having that one person to just say, hey, this is what's happening, is this going on with you,
Mhm.
comparing to a good friend, and then somehow make an appointment. And there are so many different places that we can go that go on like sliding fee scale or free, so that's a whole different conversation. But I think the self-awareness and talking with someone, if it's your mentor, pastor, older sister, younger brother, whoever it is, I think that's the key as well.
Yeah, that actually brings me right into one of our next questions, which is around preventive care. And that may be with those folks as well as like a therapist, or you actually utilizing some of the insurance that you may have. But preventive care often gets skipped. And so when money, especially when our finances are tight, right, that might be the one thing that we say we're not going to the doctor yet. I don't want to have a copay, or I don't have the time to take off work to go. Some of those things are can create huge barriers. So, what are ways we can still set up or participate in preventive care? What might that look like? Dr. Thompson, and then I'm going to roll right into Dr. Robbins.
Well, I think preventive care is the best care you can give yourself in this country because conventional medicine, as a conventionally trained doctor, I know that most doctors are focused on sick care. You go to the doctor when you're sick. Doctors diagnose you and usually want to either prescribe a pill or a procedure. I'm painting doctors with a broad brush, but I know there are some exceptions. But really, we should be focused on preventing disease and maintaining wellness. So that's something that should be holistic. It should be some of the things we're talking about already, making sure that you are exercising, making regularly, making sure you're getting restorative sleep, and that you're taking action to lessen the impact of stress. And food is very important because there are foods that can lead to you being more susceptible to stress, especially if they cause you to be one of in the 70% of people in this country that are overweight or obese, or the almost 70% of people in this country that are pre-diabetic. Those are forms of stress too. So there's really a helicopter approach or helicopter perspective here where you look at all of these entities and you seek out people that are skilled in helping you with them, like people on this platform. There are doctors now that are skilled in practicing functional medicine now, or preventive medicine. So I think that's what you have to do.
Okay, so that I know you're a doctor and allergist is one of your specialties. Now, you said food, most people seek food for comfort. And did I hear you correctly in saying that food could also cause more stress? Can you speak a little bit to that? Can you clarify?
Uh,
How does that happen? Are we talking about things they're allergic to? Or are you talking about things that just because of obesity? Can you explain that to us?
well, we know the number one killer of people in this country is heart disease.
Oh,
And the standard American diet fosters ill health. It increases your risk for heart disease, diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, and many other things. So, food can, although food is energy, even junk food, the fact that most Americans consume about 60% of food that is highly processed, meaning it has very little fiber in it, it has a lot of salt, oil, and sugar, uh, contributes to this ill state of health we're in, predominantly in this country. And that contributes to the body being stressed. And it's a vicious cycle because as we get more unhealthy, we're stressed more by it. We're less productive. We have poor sleep. We have poor mentation. We have emotional imbalance because of these hormones that are out of balance due to the foods that we're eating and the foods that we're not eating, which should be plants. A lot of plants, as minimally processed as possible, because of the fiber that helps to balance the good bacteria in your gut, the gut microbiome.
hmm. Thank you. Thank you for explaining. And now I want to go back to Dr. Juno Robbins. I did say I wanted you to answer this question especially for our viewers. And I'm just going to repeat it, especially for those who may just be joining us. The question was really around preventive care. And often it can get skipped when money is tight. What are ways we can still set up or make sure that we participate in preventive care? Dr. Juno Robinson.
Sure. Well, piggybacking on what Dr. Thompson said about food, in addition to what we eat, it's how much we eat. And Americans, we eat way too much. You go to the American plate and you see supersize this, supersize that. You travel over in Europe or other countries, and I mean, they're like, what are we doing, right? The body doesn't need as much food as Americans eat in order to survive and thrive. One thing I started doing years ago when I was kind of fluctuating in my weight, I started eating off a salad plate instead of a dinner plate. And I would be absolutely full. If I have this big meal on the dinner plate, my nature, I want to eat it. We're all raised with that mother, father, teacher, preacher. There's kids starving over here. You better eat everything that's on your plate. And my mama, heat my plate up to here. I better eat it or I'm grounded. No. So now on a dinner plate, smaller portions. There's been scientific studies in lab rats where they give them minimal portions, and I'm sorry, mice, not rats. The mice that ate the minimal portions, I won't freak anybody out. The mice that ate the minimal portions lived like 30% longer than these mice that were given everything they want to eat. But back to your question, I'm sorry. Consistency of routine. Routine is boring, right? Routine is boring, but consistent routine will get you a long way. As with making money, for example, or building money or investing, being consistent over a long period of time pays those huge dividends. The same is true with our health. So the movement, the walking, the adequate sleep, the relationships, having someone to talk to, the church family, identify what works, identify the resources where you can pick up the free produce type of thing, if that's your, struggle. And don't only identify where you can go, let them be able to identify you. And what I mean by that is form relationship. Let people know who you are. That's how you get the best of stuff. Life is a relationship endeavor. And it's not just true in our family, our friends, our love, or those kind of things. It's true in business. And it's true in getting the best produce from the free produce shop.
So true. So true.
I went in a circle, but there it is.
Well, I think that was a good circle. I'm going to ask you again, just so that I'm clear, me and the viewers are clear, and this could be a foreign concept or a good reminder. But for someone who is on a limited income, what's one realistic or a couple great ones, realistic first step to improve their financial health without feeling overwhelmed? What would you say?
Financial health?
Mm-hmm.
Financial health, I would say what's called the 10% rule. So this is something I read in a book called The Wealthy Barber when I was a senior in high school. And it basically said 10% of everything that comes through your pocket, put it away somewhere. So if I make $100, take $10 and I would sock it away somewhere. And I continued this even when I started, a professional life. I would take 10% of whatever came in my pocket and it would go into the investment account. Someplace I couldn't just grab it and touch it, but it was there if necessary, and then let that build. So I would say a 10% rule. If you can live off 90%, if you can live off 90% and take 10% and put it somewhere, that would help.
That's perfect. So see that intertwined with that circle that you talked about.
You're going in circles.
That was a great journey right there. So I'm going to follow up with, we often hear about that wealth does not buy happiness. And so everyone's heard that statement at some point. It's often said by the most wealthiest people too. But what role does financial security actually play in reducing stress and improving quality of life? What would you say, Dr. Robinson Flood?
Well, I will say this. It plays a huge role.
Mm.
It gives you the peace of mind that many of us don't have because of the finances. So when you have peace of mind, you have the clarity of thinking. You're able to plan. You're able to manage what's going on in front of you, whether it's your emotional levels, whether it's your physical activity, but you are able to actually manage life in a way where it's never going to be easy. Life isn't easy, but it can be manageable. And I think just actually, I mean, so what I mean by managing, creating the less worrying syndrome, reducing blood pressure, less agitation, and I think overall better decision making, because you're not in that impulsivity, you're not in that circle, that blur of just making decisions based on how I feel at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think that financial security gives you that peace of mind where you're like, yeah, I can buy that if I want it, but I don't need it. So I won't get it right now. I'll get it later on down the road. It just gives you that clear, just more of a clear head, for lack of a better word, just a clear head and peace of mind. I mean,
Yeah.
and that comes from transportation, housing, um, social life. So yes,
It can take you from that fight or flight mode.
yes, and take absolutely,
Mhm,
absolutely.
mhm, mhm.
So it can
Doctor,
definitely. Yep, go ahead.
no, no, no. Go ahead. That's,
I was going to sum it up with just saying it can definitely improve your quality of life overall.
hmm hmm Um, yeah, Doctor Robbins, do you want to add something to that, or Doctor Thompson?
Yeah, I would love to. Piggybacking allows us to be proactive versus reactive. That's
Hmm
kind of what I heard there, right?
Yeah.
Proactive versus reactive. Um, Not in a fight or flight mode all the time. When you're proactive, you're able to plan better into the future. You're not making reactive type decisions, and that, even look at some of our communities, like with Arise Community Credit Union, for example. One of the main things there is to have a financial resource, a financial institution that was different than the high interest loan shark type things that are so common within certain areas of our community, right? If
Right.
you're stressed for money, if you need it right now, you go to the payday lenders. You're like, oh man, I need this, I need a little bit of money, and now you're paying 20, 30%, and it's difficult to get out of that debt. If you have the financial security to be able to wait, to be patient, to plan, you can get out of those situations. So
Yeah.
yeah, the ability to be proactive, the ability to plan, and that creates a basically a self-fulfilling cycle of better decisions, which will allow more proactivity going forward, and that's how financial growth happens.
Yeah. Since you brought that up about interest rates and that kind of thing, being flight or fight mode, plan appropriately around that. Um, I'm wondering too, like how, and we're talking about, the balance between health and wellness, right? So, how should people balance paying off their debt, with still making health related investments? Like you still have your gym membership. And that may be something, $7, $19 a month, or sometimes at our community centers, you can get a good, better deal, or maybe paying for therapy.
Mhm.
You're paying for that. So, how should people balance paying that? In our conversation tonight about the intersectionality around health and wellness, I'm going to kick it over to Dr. Thompson. What would you say to that?
Yes, that's probably one of the bigger challenges for people when you don't have unlimited means, and that's most people.
Yeah.
So, really prioritizing where your money's going. So, for example, for a number of years, I had a membership with LA Fitness. Now, if you ask me how consistent I was going, you know, I wasn't going nearly as consistent. Yet every month that that $19 was coming out of my bank account. I know 19 sounds like it's really low now, but but really at some point I just stopped it because those dollars add up. And many of us can take a look if you just sit back and look at where your money's going week to week, even day to day first. There are usually areas you can work on, the non necessary items. And so that's one way so that you actually improve upon your financial situation. The other is, as what's really been said here, is becoming more financially literate and being involved with symposiums like this and with companies, with businesses like yours that help to discern, how your money fits into your lifestyle or into your life. Many
Right.
people don't know that credit unions have lower fees, and they're not like these big banks that are catering to stockholders. They're catering to their members, but a lot of people don't know that. So financial literacy plays a big role.
Absolutely. Just knowing where your money is going, what's going out, what's coming in can be a huge stress reliever. And we talk about some of those things a lot as we talk about financial literacy and other segments too. But that's a nice reminder of saying, take the time to figure that out. Dr. Robinson Foot, is there something you would like to add?
Sure. I think just networking. I believe in networking. I believe in relationships. And I think when you don't know something, you talk to people, whether it's a coworker, a mentor, a neighbor, a friend. That networking piece allows you, that's actually can be very informative. If there's something that you are not an expert on, then I think we as individuals have a responsibility to find the answer, especially when it comes to our health and our wealth.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to us. No one's going to just come to you and say, hey, this is everything you need in a book.
Right.
We need to go out and say, hey, I'm not real familiar with investing. I want to start this savings. I would like to join a gym, but that doesn't cost so much. So you do your research and Google. We all know now 60 plus years of age, yeah, maybe not so much. And so sometimes we need that little extra help. But
Mm-hmm.
in general, we know that Google is wide known. We can research, talk to our kids, talk to neighbors, like I said, and just actually attain the information. So I think it's really important that we go outside our comfort levels and look for information.
Yeah.
And I do know with the LA Fitness, yeah, I was one of those, Dr. Thompson. Yeah, the $19 a month didn't really go, and then I was really really diligent one month, and the next month kind of fall off. And so people would say, you could join this other gym because you don't go that often. They're less. And so I thought, yeah, I could. So I began to talk to different people, and according to my lifestyle, I began to say, you know what, this fits for me and that doesn't fit for me or whatever. But I think just networking and really educating yourselves on health and wealth. I think
Sure.
that's the key.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they made a killing off a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
I want to bring Dr. Robbins into this conversation, especially being a chiropractor, having that expertise, the idea around where is that balance, and where, especially in some communities, they may see preventive care or differently. I only go to the doctor when I have a pain, or I
Mhm.
may only go when there's a concern. Other than that, what would you say to this question around healthier living options and choices and balancing that mindset?
Sure. So you're talking balancing financial debt and health investments, essentially, right?
That's right.
Um, Number one, recognize both are important, right? It doesn't need to be an either or; it can be a both and. I love the idea of, recognizing more efficient or more economical ways to accomplish your goals. Um, I love the gym membership. I think mine was like $45 a month, something like. We're going way back, right?
Well, you had the luxury package.
I did have the luxury package, which I didn't go to the gym either. So, but one real tip is to look at the subscriptions that are coming out of your bank account on a monthly basis. That's how they're getting us right now. If you take your bank statement and you look and you see how many just little $4.99, $9.99, a subscription for this, subscription for that. I took 1 month. I looked at my bank statement for the past couple months, and I seen how much was actually stuff I don't use anymore,
Mm.
subscriptions I used to have on my iPhone. So I corrected that. Another thing that I personally do is, take going out for dinner, for example. I don't go out very much anymore, but if I would go out, I would spend a certain amount of money I learned to stay home, and I would take that little, $25 that I was going to pay for my meal, and I bought crypto. Well, I invested it, but I would, but that, it seems like a little small amount, right? But I'm perfectly content being at home. I was going to spend that $25 going out. Let me just go ahead and put this in something that may grow over time. I'll toss it in a bit of, XRP or Bitcoin or Ethereum, or that's a whole nother conversation, right?
I thought you were going to say you invested in preventive care. Like I started seeing a chiropractor on a regular basis. That's what I was anticipating.
It gave me peace of mind, which is mental health.
Yes, that is true.
So, those are a couple of real world examples, right? But not both and. It doesn't have to be either or. It's both and. You have to recognize what the priorities are, and understand everyone's trying to figure this doggone stuff out, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody has the answers. One of my favorite, I think it was President Obama. He was talking about moving up from the grassroots organizer up the ranks in Chicago, all the way up to presidency. He would say, as you move up the ranks, you think people are getting smarter. But you get to these high ranks, you're the president of the United States. You're sitting in this summit with all these world leaders. People they ain't too bright. They got the same, I don't know who's going to see this. I shouldn't say that. But the same little catty fights, the attitudes, people wanting to have their ego on display, the same little, it goes all the way up the ladder. So when you see people, even this forum, there's some established individuals, highly educated, great advice, but people are trying to figure it out and doing our best, just like everybody's doing their best. Taking bits and pieces.
Freeze.
Okay.
We froze for just a moment there.
I was talking too much. That's why. Okay.
Well, did you tie it up? Did you finish your point?
Full circle.
Okay. Full circle. Okay. This is a great point for me to bring up. Before we continue, I just want to let our viewers know, it's a quick reminder that this conversation and all the topics that we have been talking about tonight are just for educational purposes. Educational purposes only. Although we have a bunch of doctors on here tonight, they are not representing that for ABEP this evening. Please consult with licensed medical and financial professionals for your personalized advice. I just wanted to make sure we mention that. And I also want to remind our viewers that your voice is a part of this conversation. Please type your comments and or questions in the chat. No matter if you're watching, we'll get a chance to pop those in as well. Okay, Dr. Robbins.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right here. Dr. Robinson Foot and Dr. Robbins. Just making sure. He was very still. Like, did he freeze up on me? Okay, we're here. Good. I'm going to move us ahead. And I wanted to bring us to Dr. Thompson. Dr. Thompson, here's a critical question I want to make sure we get to. How does race and environment, or like in our community resources, shape both health and wealth outcomes at the same time? Can you answer that? I know we have a graphic that we also would like to show.
Yes, and thank you for giving me a few extra minutes to address that. So I do want to talk briefly about health and wealth disparities in the United States, why they exist and how they got here and why they still matter today. Although I'll be sharing some national data, the story connects directly to Minneapolis, communities in and around Minneapolis and across the nation. When we look at the numbers, the gaps are eye-opening. Black Americans live on average 5 to 6 years less than white Americans. Infant mortality is nearly twice as high in Black communities. And chronic diseases like diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease remain far more common. Behind these health outcomes lies a deep wealth gap. While white families today hold 6 to 8 times more household wealth than Black families. Wealth translates to access to healthy food, access to safe neighborhoods, access to schools, quality education, and quality health care. Without wealth, many families will find themselves trapped in food deserts or unsafe environments. These disparities didn't appear overnight. They are rooted in history. After slavery, many Black families entered sharecropping and economic systems still controlled by former plantation owners. The promise of 40 acres and a mule was never delivered. And then we have the Homestead Act of 1862 that gave land and opportunities primarily to white families, but later Jim Crow laws tended to restrict rights and resources. And then we have government-sanctioned redlining that systematically denied Black families home loans and neighborhood equity. All of these factors built barriers that accumulated across generations, shaping the health and wealth patterns that we see today. Thank you.
Oh, wow. You just dropped so much knowledge right there. And a lot of it is steeped in a historical context, but still barriers to us today, right?
Yes.
The
Yes.
redlining, the health issues that you stepped. I'm just digesting it all in. I felt like we needed to have a full course in this. Dr. Thompson, so the race and environment, and then can I add another layer in that's pertinent to the time right now as we talk about our political atmosphere? It's a nonpartisan conversation. However, how might that be impactful to all the things that you just talked about? And am I asking too much? Because that's where my heart and spirit just went. I was like, it's a lot going on. And then you add this new layer on that's on. It's like a new episode every day. That's what I started calling them, the episode. Did you watch the episode today on?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's you can bring it right up to recent times with voting restrictions and erasure of Black history. I mean, so there's a lot to be concerned about with what's going on now, because history is important. You don't know where you're going if you don't know your history, and the little history we have in textbooks is being wiped out. So I think it's going to be even more important that we look into this matter on our own and make sure we are involved with these school systems on a municipal level, so that our children grow up knowing that we have a rich history and it didn't start with slavery.
Right.
Absolutely. How do we carry that kind of stress, and what impacts do you see in our bodies, in our as we bring this conversation fully back into health and wellness? Dr. Robbins, before we have about a few minutes left on the clock, what would you say to that as we this knowledge that Dr. Thompson reminds us of and drops new tidbits? What would you say?
Yeah, that was a powerful graphic. I appreciate you sharing that, Dr. Thompson, and I hope I can get a copy of that as well. It's not proprietary. I don't know.
No.
But one thing Dr. Thompson said earlier is you don't need to leave the news on 24/7, 365. It'll wear on you. You need to take care of whatever goes in your mind is gonna, if it's there over and over repetitively, it will play on you. You'll get the news you need to get. Go ahead and get what you need, a half hour a day if you need that. But don't spend all day, every day looking at the news. It will drive you absolutely in a place you don't want to be. Find the things that you do like to do. Find what gives you peace. I think when we were talking about the deep breathing, the 4-7-8, I think I decreased my heart rate a little bit while that conversation was going on as I was doing that. Find a recreation, an activity, a hobby, something that brings you peace, and it'll resonate with you when you know it, and pursue that. Simultaneously, we need to be organized and mobilized and support the causes that we need to support. But don't spend your entire life being inundated by the outside things that bring you down.
Awesome. Awesome. So practical action steps in that. And then others and our viewers, if you would like a copy of Dr. Thompson's graphic, please type yes in the comments section. Dr. Robinson Foote, what would you say, some practical action steps before we leave tonight? What would you say to our viewers um, to take care for the bring health and wealth into a better alignment?
Yes. I would first say I appreciate you, Dr. Robbins, for saying that. Taking care of ourselves and just the whole news. We can get so consumed with the episode every day. And some days if you're home all day, then that's what's on in the background. And so taking care of our minds, that is so important. So I appreciate you saying that. And so I want to add, if we recondition the way we think about health and wealth, and actually learn to, and it's learning because you're actually teaching yourselves, like what is my self-awareness around, how am I taking care of my health, how am I integrating it with wealth, because they don't have to be separate, and they're not separate. And so at times they may have, one may be more prevalent than the other, but generally they go hand in hand. So I think if we focus on our health and make that a priority in all situations, from overworking to making major purchases to thinking. Um, I think having the healthy lifestyles need to be in the forefront of what we do. And I think, and that's why I say, if we recondition the way we think about health and wealth, our healthy lifestyles, is that something that you're committed to adding to your agenda daily? And I say that even to myself, because I'll say this, and then my sister will call and say, "Hey, let's go and have a piece of cake." And I'll, yes, let's go. And I know I had a donut a half hour ago, and I don't need that cake. So, so it's like, are we really going to be committed to healthy lifestyles? And I think this is an ongoing conversation. It doesn't just stop here, because if we reflect on it, take it home, sleep on it, wake up thinking about it, start buying some self development, healthy lifestyle books, which don't have to be novels. They can be little magazines and 10 pagers, and just start educating ourselves on what we can do in terms of spending. You know, I would say really be aware of what you're spending. And I think that was you, Dr. Thompson, who talked about going through your 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 bank register, or whatever your purchases were for that month, and you will find out there are so many charges that are there that we don't even know about. The 4.99s. I was a victim of the 4.99s, the 99 cents, hundreds of them. So checking that once a week is a commitment. Changing the way we spend money, changing the way we look at money. So I think that changing the way we just focus. What's our focus really on? Is it on our health, or is it on our wealth? Or can it be both? And
Yeah,
yes, it can be both.
thank you. And Dr. Thompson, some one tip that our viewers and us, we might, I'm taking notes here, can take with us. What'd you say?
Well, one, everyone should review this recording when they have a chance, because there's a lot of good information that was communicated here. But when I uh, when I published my book Fearless Wellness, the F, which stood for food, came first, because that is something you could immediately do with your next bite, with your next meal. You can eat something healthier than what you were planning to eat, and that can start the ball rolling. We've dropped many other pearls here: the importance of exercise, restorative sleep, and breathing. But most of us do eat about 2 or 3 times a day. And so that would be a good start, with making sure that you go from that 60% average of highly processed food and flip it around, and make sure you're eating greater than 60% whole foods. That's fruit, that's whole grains, that's legumes, that's beans, earth spices, nuts and seeds. And that's a great start.
Thank you. Thank you all. Tonight's conversation showed us that health and wealth are not competing priorities. They work when they work together, right? By investing in both, we create stronger families, longer lives, and brighter futures. I want to say again, thank you all so much for sharing your expertise and guiding us through this conversation tonight. A big and huge thankful thankfulness to the Association for Black Economic Power for creating a space to have these virtual conversations. And one of the last things we can do, I just want to make sure, because a viewer chimed in to say, don't overcommit. Start with something simple. Clean your desk, make up your bed. So things of that nature too. So thank you again. And I look forward to our next time. Have a wonderful evening. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good
Thank
night.
you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Beyond Table Talk. We truly appreciate you, our viewers, and we want to give a special thanks to our moderators and panelists for sharing their wisdom tonight. You can check out their bios to learn more and their contact information. We also want to thank our sponsors who make these conversations possible. And we encourage you to stay connected. Follow us on social media, engage with the conversation, and share with your community.
If you'd like to sponsor an episode
or get involved, we'd love to have you to be a part of this journey. Scan the QR code. We take this moment to thank our incredible team that brings this program to life. Before you head out, please take a moment to fill out the post-checkout form. Your feedback really matters. Let's keep the momentum going, and remember, the most meaningful conversations don't just happen at the table, they live beyond it. See you next time.